Hello and welcome all back to Cinema Strength. It has been a little bit of a minute, hasn't it? About a year now since I last uploaded. Yeah, I had some stuff going on, got pretty busy, forgot to make videos. You know how it goes. But we're back, and we're back with a new format actually. Before I was doing gym reviews where I would film myself doing my usual workouts and talking to you all. I know you all enjoy those, but that format just became a little bit too hard for me to film consistently by my lonesome. So we're coming at this format. I'm just going to be talking to you with a black screen. Very riveting, very original, I know. But we're going to stick with this format here, and maybe we can make something happen of it. If you have any suggestions, what would be an interesting background? I thought about actually doing a little bit of gameplay in the background. I record myself on whatever Shadow Play or whatever and use that as a background, maybe to be kind of interesting. I don't know. Let me know what you think of this format. So anyway, before we dive into some reviews that I've been wanting to do for a while, I wanted to come at you with, I don't know if you call this a rant video or a discussion video, or I don't know what you would call this, but I want to talk to you about something that I've been doing that if you saw on Instagram, my Instagram at Cinema Strength, I've been doing this thing which I call the Summer of Classic TV. And what is that? Basically all summer, since about beginning of June, along with, actually I've been doing this with my dad, we have been watching every day a bunch of classic TV shows from before the year 2000. In fact, I will put up my lineup right here. And I gotta tell you, it's been a lot of fun. And there's a couple reasons why I decided to do this. Number one, I wanted to expand kind of my personal roster of media that kind of, I guess, study the art of TV a little bit. That's the pretentious film student in me talking. The second reason I wanted to do this is, honestly, I thought it'd be just kind of fun to do. But also, a lot of these shows are just really good. And that leads me to the third reason why I was doing this. I don't know if you noticed it, but something I've noticed with modern television is that the shows are really, really bad. My problem with modern shows is most of them try to be like political, and they make a very direct statement, and they expect that, well, that's good writing because we're saying some political, whatever message or some sort of message about life. The problem with that is that messaging in shows has to be packaged with good character writing, a good story. And most dramas now are basically some version of this uninteresting fuckwit. These group of jackasses are doing some thing that we don't really care about because the story writers don't really invest any time making us care about what's going on, and the characters are just not that interesting to begin with. Or you have comedies nowadays where they don't really write jokes. They basically just say, oh, hey, look at these, white straight males, aren't they stupid and wrong and, not deserving of praise and attention? Isn't that funny? And look, I'm a white straight male, and the fact that some people call this woke writing, it's not woke writing, it's just stupid, lazy writing. They're not writing actual jokes that are funny. Watch these old shows, and I gotta tell you, these shows are fucking funny, man. Especially, they're funny in ways that you really wouldn't expect for old shows to be that funny. Like, one of the shows I'm watching, I Love Lucy, they make the very sitcom-y jokes, and it's kind of the dumb, somewhat unintelligent wife played impeccably by Lucille Ball, and then you have her husband who, works and is like, oh, Lucy, you're being kind of dumb. And you have jokes like that, but then you have humor from MASH. Now, MASH, the humor in that show is absolutely insane. But MASH also does a good job of pairing really well done comedy with really heavy drama. I mean, obviously it's set during the Korean War. Obviously it's a medical unit where they're seeing these horrific injuries and they have to put these soldiers back together. But they still find a way to balance humor with really well-written characters. Like, the characters in MASH are I'm getting really invested in these characters because I care about them. I want to see them succeed. A lot of the story setups in MASH, like there's one episode where Hawkeye is trying to get medical supplies. Like, he's trying to get medical supplies from this, like, smuggler asshole, and they find a way to make it a really funny episode while the subject matter is very heavily dramatic. You know what I mean? And that's something I think is missing from modern television, is that there's not a decent balance of drama and comedy, and the drama is not very interesting, and the comedy is not very funny. Like, before I started this summer of classic TV, I was watching an episode of this show, Blue Lights. It's an Irish cop show, and it's fucking boring, man. I can't watch that show. It basically follows these different cops. They're like new, and they're like, oh, well, you're being evaluated, and the new cops, they're just dumbasses. All right, they constantly make mistakes. They're constantly trying to put their own values in things, and they're telling their commanding officers, like, no, fuck you, I can do this. And it's like, these people are stupid in ways that are not funny, but they're not endearing enough because we know a couple things about them. They try to give them different personalities, but ultimately they're kind of carbon copies of each other, and they're all going through the same sort of journey. It's just dumb. And then they throw in, like, oh, you didn't turn on your body camera, so shit's fucked up, and here's X political statement about what that means for policing and how that works. But then you go to some of these old shows, like SWAT, for instance. Okay, SWAT is a police procedural. I know everyone has seen a million police procedurals. They all suck, whatever. There was something special about certain formats of shows like the police procedural. In SWAT, for instance, a lot of people throw around the phrase copaganda, where they make the cops out to be the ultimate good guys and blah, 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 and all that. And no, that's very bad of you. You can't like cops. The cops are clearly the good guys. They're the tough guys. But you would be surprised how much these guys screw up, but in ways that are kind of understandable. They are human characters. Like, they do have flaws, and they acknowledge that, wow, our job really sucks, and we're supposed to be the elite group, and we screw up sometimes. Like, I was watching this episode the other day, Dan, or Hondo, he's kind of the captain, played by Steve Forrest. He, in doing his job and being kind of the ultimate badass, he was screwing up a lot with his kids and his family. And he was saying, like, man, I maybe I need to get out of this because I'm failing as a father. And I was like, okay, damn, that's a pretty interesting take on it. Like, I wouldn't have expected that from a show you got to remember, the original SWAT series came out in the 60s. Now, not every show is good. Some of the shows in the lineup I've kind of, I'm not really that hot on, like, not really so hot on the Brady Bunch or the Partridge Family. And you know what? That's okay. Not every old show is going to be great, just as most new shows are not going to be that good. But honestly, I'm just enjoying the journey of experiencing some of these shows, and I'm loving most of them. I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm really getting into a lot of the characters too. Like, a Cheers. I gotta tell you, I don't know what it was like back in the 80s, but I could definitely see a character like Diane being absolutely hated. But honestly, Diane's my favorite character on Cheers because I think she's fucking hilarious. She's like so in touch with the world, like she's so smart about it, but at times she's so fucking oblivious to it. And the way she, carries herself and speaks, and some of the things she says is just like, I don't know why it's so funny, but it's just so. I was watching this episode where they were talking about some douchebag. It was Coach's daughter. She was going to marry this one douchebag. And after talking with him for a little bit, Diane just goes, "That man is pond scum." Excuse me. When you get a coughing laugh, that's how you know a show is fucking hilarious, man. Oh god. Something that I don't want to mention this, but sometimes the shows can get a little not so, how do I put this in a delicate way? Not so. You got to remember these shows were written in the 50s, 60s, all the way through the 90s. Sometimes they are not so they wouldn't fly today. Some of the things they say and characters they do and little bits they do on whatever name your comedy show here. And you know what? I think that's something that it just has to be kind of accepted and understood that, hey, this was how it was back then. That's what they considered funny. We may not consider that okay today. I consider those little minor flaws, to be honest, because there's not as much of it as I thought there were. Like, I'm watching Bonanza, and one of the prominent characters in Bonanza is a Chinese guy named Hop Sing. Now, that name, that's, I don't know if that's an actual, proper Chinese name. I only took Chinese for a couple years in high school, and I barely passed. I would imagine it's not. And he wears a typical Chinese getup, and he's a little bit of a stereotype. But what's weird in that show, there's also a lot, the Cartwright family. There's the first episode of Bonanza I watched was literally some racist asshole was accusing Hop Sing's son of killing his daughter, and there was a big racial mob about it, and the Cartwright family, they were like, no, we don't accept that. You're only doing that because you're a racist. So I was pleasantly surprised by that. I was like, okay, you have a stereotype character, but you're still preaching a message of tolerance. That's kind of interesting. So these little, perhaps racial stereotypes or racial insensitivities, maybe gender insensitivities. Hadn't been a lot of mentions of LGBT persons in a negative or positive light. I guess they just didn't mention it back then. I consider those little minor flaws, and they don't detract from my enjoyment of the show. You may look at these things and say, hey, I'm pretty uncomfortable with that. Honestly, I might say just deal with it, take it with, a grain of salt. But then again, I'm a little more, I can ignore things like that, but maybe you can't. Just something to keep in mind. I don't think it detracts from the enjoyment of the show too much. There's only a couple things about this summer classic TV that I wish I could say that are not so positive. Is one, a lot of these old shows just aren't fucking available anywhere. I think that's a criminal shame, but, copyright holders in this country are evil, and corporations are equally as evil. And two, I just wish I could watch more TV. There's so many shows we considered for this. We considered Have Gun Will Travel, Hawaii Five-0, Wanted Dead or Alive. There are a lot of freaking classic shows that we just can't fit into the lineup. But who knows? Maybe we'll do this next year, and I'll just keep on going, man. I'll do this every year. Hell, maybe I do this enough times that I can start considering, iCarly and Drake and Josh as classic television. Wouldn't that be a trip? So anyway, guys, that's my thoughts on the matter. Sorry, this is a little bit longer video and a little bit more rambly than I would like. But hey, that's the way it goes sometimes. Let me know what you think of the new format. I'm going to come out with a video end of August telling you, maybe I'll do like a top 10 or top 5 list. I don't know if I'm watching too little shows to do a top 10, but too many to do a top 5. And I might even invite my dad on, and he can give you his opinion on things. Anyway, guys, I'm back. Sorry for no videos. I'm going to be coming out with a lot more. Expect some reviews pretty soon. And sorry this is rambly and I don't really know how to do outro. If you enjoyed that video, good for you. There's more coming. Check me out on Cinema Strength on Instagram, and keep coming back here to YouTube to watch some more, hopefully, fun videos. All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.